Humanianity, a new religious call. Humanianity, religion for us all. Humanity, now we all can see. Humanity, how much better we can be. Hi, I'm Bill Van Fleet, and these are conversations about humanianity and related issues as presented on the website at humanianity.com. My belief is that the concept of humanianity is of extreme importance to our species, as will be described in the conversation. The current conversation is the first one being recorded on October 25th, 2018. And is the first recorded conversation with my friend Mike, though he and I have had a number of other conversations in the past about various philosophical issues. He, among others, has also helped me a lot with technical problems, which I still have not mastered, as you will undoubtedly observe. The idea is to make the concept of humanianity as clear as possible and to address any problems that may be inherent in the concept.
And it seems like there's been a shift in your thinking with humanianity, like you're looking at this more long term.
Oh no. I think I know what you mean. It's called acceptance. And but I've known all along that my effort may be a total waste. However, the odds are not zero. And so I certainly want to do my part if indeed we get there, if indeed we save ourselves from this awful life that we're causing ourselves and each other to have on this planet, compared to the way it could be. I want to have something to do with bringing that about, the new way. And so I can't logically come to any other conclusion. Now, I can agree with Chris that, if you want to pull people into your project and have people, then you've got to talk differently, i.e. dishonestly. You've got to give up your idea or keep your idea, but trick people into coming in and then gradually changing their minds. And I don't think that I think that is contrary to one of the most important ethical principles within humanity, and that is, honesty and the presentation of ideas that one believes are correct, put them there for challenge, and realize that they could be incorrect, but they got to be put out there for review by others.
Yeah, I could, given that's your feelings, I could certainly understand why you wouldn't want to change it. I don't agree with Chris's perspective on religion, but I also don't see, I wouldn't label fulfilling Chris's requests as being dishonest. I see it more as trying to translate between two different models.
No, he's not being dishonest.
No, I meant I don't see you being dishonest if you simply use some different terminology for certain people. I see it as translating different people.
But if
part of the issue. So I see this to be a translation problem rather than a dishonesty problem.
Yes, I understand that. I don't. And,
yeah, absolutely.
Well,
yeah.
I want to explain why. I am specifically interested in the problems that religion produces. that I agree with Chris that those problems are in religion. However, for me to take a tribalistic approach and say, therefore, I'm going to develop an opposing group that is going to leave the religions off to die, is exactly what we do all the time, that causes us never to be able to come together as a global species. Instead, I see the important thing is that religions improve. And so we who are non-theistic, for instance, need to remain in the religions and agree with the good things and say, well, I can't really go along with the bad things. We need to improve our religions, not stamp them out. And it's no different than child rearing. Instead of stamping out children, you help them to overcome the problems in their behavior that make them not fit in, that cause difficulty. So to stamp out or let die children is not the ideal thing. Is to help the children to grow. Okay, so from within religion, we who have ideas about how our religion could improve should indeed speak up, and that is what is happening.
You have given me reasons, several different reasons for you not wanting to, change your communication, your rhetoric. By far, that explanation is the most reasonable to me, and I would agree. It kind of helps me to reframe how I'm seeing humanity and the reasons why it has to remain a religion. Because the goal here is to change religion. It would be irrational to consider that humanity as a whole will abandon religion completely. Everybody.
Right.
It's never happened before, ever in humanity's existence. It's part of our nature.
And shouldn't. Now, again, the problem is that people have, I think, an incorrect idea of what religion is. And what I mean by that is, if we start from scratch and we look over the history of our species, as far back as we can go, we see evidence that, I guess primarily since we developed language, of a social activity that was concerned with how should we behave, what should we do. And it would be all sorts of things, which, for instance, currently we have different beliefs about, that we should not engage in those things. But the function of that set of things that we refer to as religions back then as well as now, the function was to bring us together socially, to help us figure out how to live good lives, how to live lives that we can feel good about. And of course, the religions, beginning back prehistorically and continuing on, have begun with ideas about the universe and the way that it works and so forth, that now are not believed due to the development of the scientific methods and the very accurate beliefs that those methods have allowed us to attain about the world, the existential beliefs that we have. So the religions are going through a stressful period right now. It's kind of equivalent, I think, to the development of us as children. When we come out of the womb, we are nurtured by mother, and she takes care of us, and we're not a big problem. We cry, and she feeds us, and so forth. Before long, within the first 1 to 2 years of life, we get legs, we start being able to walk and to run around and now do things which can't be allowed, or at least cannot be allowed to continue. We can't throw our food at the table. We can't snatch things away from our siblings. We've got to learn how to become, quote, civilized, i.e., more mature. And so what happens is that that causes us to have to start doing new things with regard to our children. And of course, the usual thing is reward and punishment, but there's more to it than that. But then that's when things start going bad. And
yeah, I could see that. I could see that to be analogous. I'm wondering if you consider Humanianity a religion and you're the creator of this religion.
Yeah, but that's not correct.
Okay,
I state that on the website. And one thing that might be helpful would be to look at the very first material that is presented, because I think it deals with all these issues.
Yeah, we can go through that again. So if humanity is not a religion, then are you saying Humanianity is a structure to create your own religion, your own belief system?
No. Humanianity is just a label that one person has put on something that so far has not had a recognized label. And it is a development within our species. It is the third exponential change, making us drastically different than the way we were before and from all other species. And the first exponential change, was language, the development of symbols and the rules of syntax, so that we can make statements like John handed Mary the book, or Mary handed John the book. The rules of syntax tell, by the arrangement of those symbols, what the sentence is supposed to mean, and so on. And so with our language, then, we have developed much more capability of being empathetic with each other, of understanding what it's like to be the other person, because the other person can describe it. And also, we've gotten much better at giving each other instructions. We can tell each other how to get to a distant place that they've never been before, and just with our words. So with this tool, language, we have done wonderful things and terrible things and all in between. And then, past 2,000 or 3,000 years, we developed the rules of logic in the last, and the rules of evidence, especially in the last 200 or 300 years.
That's a second exponential change.
That's given us science and technology, and so our rationality and our ability to make use of highly accurate beliefs, highly accurate modeling of quote reality, has been our second exponential change. No other species can do that on this planet. And so now, with that tool, science and technology as its culmination, or its epitome, with that tool, we do wonderful things and terrible things and all in between. We make nuclear power plants and nuclear bombs. Now there's something else that is happening. And that something else, the third exponential change, is what I, as one person, has put a label on Humanianity. And that is a change in the nature of our ethics. And we have a naturally occurring ethics that occurs among chimps and dogs and social hierarchy species. It is what one should or should not do. And that ethics that comes naturally is authoritarian. In other words, how do you determine what you should or should not do? By whoever is most powerful wants you to do. And so that would be parent, that would be leader, that would be the culture, that would be the deity. But whatever is the powerful thing in one's life, and it's not just fear of the most powerful. It's also built into us the tendency to admire, to praise power, to praise the beating of the chest, and so forth. And we see political examples of that very easily.
Mm-hmm. So, Bill, I can see that the first exponential change was triggered by maybe certain evolutionary forces,
right?
And maybe even the second exponential change to also be the result of the first exponential change.
Yes.
What do you think is driving the third exponential change? What's causing that change to happen?
Yes. Okay. Well. Okay. Let me first respond to something. The first exponential change came about through the development of the prefrontal cortex, and there are theories that has to do with the development of our ability to cook food and so forth. So there are theories about that, and I don't know about that sort of thing. But we have much more frontal cortex than other species, and so therefore we've got much more ability to develop these things, symbols and so on. Chimpanzees can learn a lot of sign language and make sentences and so on, so they can indeed use symbolic language to a certain extent if trained to do so, but it's difficult, and they nowhere approach our ability, which is almost infinite. We make up new words
right.
almost every day.
Right. Wait, can you not see me now? So, sorry, Bill, continue.
No, you're completely blacked out now. There, I can see you a little bit now. You're still in the dark.
I'm sorry. That should be better. Okay, continue.
Okay.
So that's the first exponential change.
Yeah. Okay, so then we talked and see, by virtue of the first exponential change, the second exponential change was able to occur. You can't have the rules of logic until you have symbolic language. And the rules of evidence also require the logic, but they also require the ability to give mutual instructions and so forth, and to be able to precisely define things and technically do stuff that is repeatable and so forth. And that's what's enabled us to do experiments and to demonstrate whether something is accurate and whether a belief is accurate and can be relied upon. But now, I hadn't quite finished about third exponential change, what it is. I said it is a change in our ethics. And what I said is there's a naturally occurring ethics that is the ethics of the chimpanzee, the dog, and any social hierarchy species. And it is the natural ethics that we go by, except that emerging is a new kind of ethics, and it's only made possible by the first two exponential changes.
So like the second exponential change, that's a result of the first, rather than any kind of biological or evolutionary imperative. The third exponential change is simply the resultant of the second exponential change.
The second
one follows of the other.
Yeah.
So why are you calling these exponential changes? Why are you focusing in on these three changes in humanity, in humans?
Still have not finished talking about the answer to the question as to what humanity is. It's not.
Oh, please continue.
So what I said, it is a change in our ethics, and then we'll get back to what you're talking about. It is a change in our ethics from authoritarian ethics to a new kind of ethics. Now, why? Why? The reason is that we have become extremely aware of how awful our lives are, as well as wonderful, but how awful they are because of all the things that we do that we don't have to do, where we mistreat ourselves and each other and the environment. And so just turning on the news is sufficient to clarify all the really bad things that we do at all different levels. And we have relationship breakdown. Half of marriages end in divorce. We have people killing themselves because they can't stand it anymore, and so on. So, and we have wonderful things going on also. We do absolutely wonderful things. Well, why not get rid of the bad things? So it's beginning to occur to us that maybe there is a different kind of ethics. Authoritarian ethics means you have to know what is wanted of you on the part of X, whoever or whatever is most powerful. And the problem is there is no agreement about X, whether X exists or not, or whose X is the right one, or what's in the mind of X, or anything like that. There's no agreement, and I don't think any of us can predict that, oh yes, it's just, in another 20 or 30 years, the whole world will agree that there is a God and that the God thinks this, that, or the other, or something like that. So that form of ethics, or that there is the leader, dear leader, that is the right person to follow and so forth, because we humans are imperfect. So what is the alternative? The alternative I refer to as not authoritarian ethics, but rational ethics. And the specific ethics that I'm talking about, by rational ethics, I mean it's logically, internally consistent, but that also it works to give us a best life, to give us the maximum good and the minimum bad in our lives. And so the principles and rules of conduct are consistent with an ultimate ethical principle, which of course is the HUEP, the Humanian Ultimate Ethical Principle. And so now that HUEP is just one person's effort to formulate in the English language what it is that we would all want, or most all of us, if we weren't so screwed up. And it is that we want not only to promote the survival of our species, which is what authoritarian ethics was acquired by. In other words, that psychosocial phenomenon is something that does promote the survival of species, but it has nothing to do with how much suffering or joy there is. It's just, it makes use of suffering. It makes use of joy and so forth. But it results in a lot of suffering. But we humans now, with our first two exponential changes, can say, well, maybe we could do better than what comes naturally to us. And so how would we do that? Well, let's form a social contract. And so the image that I think helps the most is there's a group of people sitting around a table. And they're the last people on Earth. And the question is, well, how are we going to live together? We can say, well, he's the one we're most scared of, so he tells us what to do, and that's authoritarian ethics. But the new one is, Let's all work together on a social contract that is by all of us, for all of us, and for the benefit of all of us, for the benefit of us humans. And so that would be the benefit would be not only promoting our survival, but also promoting as much joy, contentment, and appreciation as possible, and as little pain, suffering, disability, and early death as possible for everyone now and in the future. So that's social contract, and it is emerging, and a good example is the appearance on this planet of democracy, where that's government by all, for all. Now, we don't have well-functioning pure democracies, of course. We're not there yet. But the idea is there, and we've come a certain distance. And so instead of dictatorship, we have the idea of democracy. And also another thing, because of our science and technology and our ability now to empathize with people on the other side of the planet and so on, we have something new that had never been there before. We've always had rights of citizenship, or the rights that you have if you're one of us. But now, lo and behold, we're talking about human rights. In other words, if you're the human species, then you have rights. And so that's a global coming together. That's something new. That's a manifestation, something new. Another example would be the development of decision making, legal decision making, of laws that apply to everybody equally, and so forth. Now we know that we don't have that yet because, yes, we have this democracy, but it's still dominated by the most powerful, and the most powerful are the ones that have the best weapons, and now the most money, and so on. So we've got a long way to go, but we're beginning. So I see ourselves as just a toddler. Now, if we're successful, then that's got to go up, and would likely be an exponential thing, So we develop this kind of effort at democracy. Now, all of a sudden, more and more people are considering democracy, and we even have world government based upon democratic principles. See, so that's but it's still way down here. We still have a long, long way to go. And what it involves is not them changing, but you changing, me changing, us changing how we think about things. And so, and that has to do with us exchanging ideas and challenging ideas and so forth. And that we could call that studying. And so the website is a tool, just one tool among many, for people to start working on this change, becoming ethically different than we've ever been in the past. And so this, it's like there's an animal that we see going along. We've never seen it before, but it's obviously been around a long time. Well, let's give it a label. So that's all I'm doing with the Humanianity. I'm not starting something new. I'm trying to foster something that is already developing, that's been developing over a long period of time. I'm just trying to help it along by giving it a label.
So what is the third exponential change that you're labeling? You've just talked, I timed it for the past 7 minutes straight, and you said a whole lot of things about a whole lot of things.
No, that's a question.
Is humanity, is a third exponential change that you're labeling Humanianity? could we say it is a change in humanity's ethics as a whole from authoritarian to more one that is agreed upon?
That's exactly it. Yes, that's what I said. From authoritarian ethics to rational ethics based upon the HUEP.
Right.
Or something
so,
like the HUEP.
Right. It's interesting. As I could see how there will be people who have their understanding based on the current vernacular and the current definition, not necessarily definition, but the commonplace understanding of a religion, that it is almost universally authoritarian, that there is a set of rules, a structure. So it's kind of almost counterintuitive for something to call itself a religion that is embracing a change in humanity, that's embracing a change in humanity that is kind of, runs completely counter to what, this authoritarian ideology that most religions throughout history have embraced. So your position is the desire for religion is coming not throughout history. The reason why religions are always going to be around is because it is a way to congregate and join together. So we're going to keep, in Humanianity, we're going to keep that aspect, but we're going to reject the authoritarian and, in a sense, expand the coming together to also include agreeing upon adhering to a rational set of ethics instead of an authoritarian set of ethics.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the thing that is a hang-up for you, and you're sensing a hang-up, is that it's like a belief that, well, religions have to be authoritarian or something like that. And I think that that's based upon the belief that all the religions have in them an authoritarian God. But I don't think that's correct. They're all
not so much. I don't think that all religions have an authoritarian God, but they have some type of authoritarian aspect to it, just by virtue of what defines the group. What defines the group in Buddhism, which doesn't necessarily have to have a God, is this book is the authority. This is what governs how we're supposed to behave. So I think, can you have a group of people?
Well, wait. So are you saying that every religion has its book? I don't think.
I'm saying every religion has an authoritarian group. Has an authoritarian group. Every religion has a group of morals, rules that the people in the group have to adhere to, and therefore you can say that those rules are authoritarian in nature. You can't be part of that group without those rules.
Okay. However, what's been happening in the religions has been the increasing ability to challenge the validity of or the desirability of any of those rules. Now, in some religions, no, you better not, I understand. But in other religions, there is there is a progressive aspect where people within the religion are questioning things that were not in the past questioned. Now, when you're talking about the group having an ethics, you can regard ethics itself, if you want, as authoritarian, like social contract. Well, we agree upon this, so then it is authoritarian over us. But I think that's kind of switching the idea of what the ethics is. In other words, the question is, how do you determine what you should or should not do? And that and the book of a religion is a study guide, and it is a part of our species diary. It was written at a certain time. Now, in the Humanian Belief Manual is a similar sort of thing, except that it is being written and rewritten with the challenging of any ideas and the comparing of existential and ethical beliefs to see which ones are becoming more accepted, but always with the ability to challenge. And so, so the belief manual is like a Bible, but it's a continually evolving Bible that you and I and anybody else in the world are contributing to.
Yeah, I
so the Bible and the Quran and so forth, those are tools, study tools. And the ones that are written at a specific time in the past are part of our diary.
Right. And perhaps I'm missing the forest for the trees here.
Okay.
When I say that, because again, this may not be the point. Clearly, it's not. I agree. It's not the point of Humanianity, which is trying to recognize and codify in a certain sense this change that's already happening. But it seems to me that Humanianity, and correct me if I'm wrong, is trying to create a group that has no authoritarian presence. Is that correct?
Well, what do you mean by authoritarian presence?
That's what I'm trying to, it has no, that what defines the behavior of the group is not set forth by anyone other than the group itself. The group itself defines how it behaves. Right.
It is not something imposed from outside or above. That's correct. Yes.
Right. So wouldn't that mean that seems to imply the following? If somebody in a Humanian, if a Humanian, what do you call a Humanian? If a Humanian, if a member of Humanianity does not believe the entirety of the Humanianity group belief system, but only a portion of it, but still chooses to remain in the group, it would seem that that person would be experiencing an authoritarian set of beliefs imposed upon them.
What belief system?
For instance, the belief system that all ethics should be internally consistent and a rational ethical living, let's say. So let's say in terms of rational ethical living that I believe in HUOP and the ultimate ethical principle, but when it comes to rational ethical living, not so much. But I still choose to remain in the Humanianity movement. So, and in order to do so, I have to accept all of their beliefs, or I wouldn't be considered as a member.
All of what beliefs?
That we adhere to the HUOP principle, we avoid PSDED, and that we abide by a rational set of ethical living principles.
Okay, yeah. Now, yes, in other words, I and maybe somebody else are saying, hey, Mike, would you like to join us? This is what we're trying to accomplish. And you're free to join us or not. Or you're free to be a visitor and to try to figure out, well, is this for me or not? And what is it that we are trying to bring about? It's just that the only thing that defines you as Humanian is whether you accept that ultimate ethical principle. But you may have a different opinion as to what is consistent with that. But so I can ask, are you in favor of as little pain, suffering, disability, and early death as possible, or as much? Are you in favor of us having as much joy, contentment, and appreciation, or as little?
Right.
In favor of us getting rid of our species or promoting the survival of our species? Are you in favor of that being for everyone now and in the future, or just certain people? If those answers, if you're for the first, I think I've got that right, then by definition you're Humanian. But you may have different opinions about how to implement that ultimate ethical principle.
So, Bill, how is that not, for the skeptics out there, how is that not yet another, how is Humanianity not yet simply another form of authoritarianism? Because you're saying you have to believe in HUAP or you cannot be part of our group.
Well, but I don't think I'm saying that. If somebody wants to be a part of the group and participate, but believes that we should have more pain, suffering, disability, and early death, I would want to discuss with them why. Maybe they got a good point, and maybe I would want to go to their religion that says we want as much pain, suffering, disability, and early death as possible. But I don't think that is among the list of things that are in any way possible.
Okay, so I, as long as I believe in HUAP, then I can I be a member of the group if I believe in HUAP but don't believe in rational ethical living?
Well, yes, you can. In other words, you may believe, our use of rationality to determine our ethics is really going to screw us up badly. What we need to do is what we're doing now, to have, to take John's God and consider what John says his God wants for us to do to be the thing that we do, even if it's going to cause us to destroy ourselves or something like that.
Okay, so I'm confused because I was under the impression that Humanianity was a label for this third exponential change, which is basically rational ethical living. But you're saying I can become I can still be a member of Humanianity, even if I don't adopt that exponential change. How is that possible?
No, a good point about. See, it has to do with definition. You're right, and I just made a mistake because the HUEP is the goal that we're trying to accomplish, and it is the ultimate ethical principle. But it does include the idea that it should be rational. And by rational, what that means is as much as possible internally consistent, and as much as possible based upon accurate beliefs about the world. And rationality gives us our most accurate beliefs about the world. That's why we now can get to the moon and back and so forth. So, but if you believe that rationality is actually destructive to us. Of course, you can be a member of our group, and we can have debates. That sort of thing should be discussed. Anything should be challenged.
So then, is it a coincidence that you're calling Humanianity? Well, maybe I'm going too far here, and I might be reading something into this I shouldn't be. But you mentioned that Humanianity is a label for this third exponential change. But yet you're using Humanianity as a noun, basically, and also as a verb, as a process of something that's happening, in a sense. Is that correct? Humanianity is a change, is a movement. It's a change that's happening in humans.
Yeah, well,
but yet it's also a thing. It's also a religion. Is it the implication there? Is that a coincidence?
Well, I think, can we go to the website, because it explains very, very early. Let me do a screen share, and I've got to figure out how to do that. Let's go through it in an orderly way. We won't have to go real far to accomplish accomplish the answer to your question. Okay, so Humanianity, the religion for humanity. Now, right under that, meaning, working together rationally on increasingly becoming the ethically mature human species we can be.
I have a question.
Yes.
You also said that Humanianity is a label for the third exponential change.
Yeah.
Is the third exponential, if you're defining Humanianity here as working together rationally on increasingly becoming the ethically mature human species we can be, is that also the meaning of Humanianity in the context of the third exponential change?
Well, sort of, but I think I can't give the answer to the question is going to follow here. If we can just follow along for a minute, it will become clearer. Now, maybe that statement could be modified. What its meaning is referring to the meaning of the religion for humanity, or it is an effort to clarify the word religion, but that may not be an optimal thing to put there, and maybe there's something better. So let's keep that in mind. But let's move ahead here, because then we can come back and review this and maybe make some improvements. So the only requirement, by definition, to consider yourself a Humanian is the commitment to try to live in rational consistency with the Humanian, rational ethical, ultimate ethical principle, HUEP, defined here as. And then, of course, we've already mentioned that. Promote that which will promote not only the survival of our species, but also as much joy, contentment, appreciation as possible, and as little pain, suffering, disability, and early death as possible for everyone now and in the future. Now, this website, its nature and purpose. So, all over this world, we humans decide to do things to ourselves, each other, and our environment that cause enormous amounts of PSDED, as defined above. We need an increasingly agreed upon basic ethical philosophy for our species. But we have great difficulty understanding and agreeing with one another, and consequently remain divided against each other, often with anger and hostility that leads to relationship breakdown, all the way from interpersonal distancing and attack to war and genocide. This website is a collection of tools for study, discussion, and friendly debate for the purpose of bringing about ever-increasing, worldwide, accurate, mutual understanding and agreement consistent with the above HUEP. So that's just saying what the website is like. Now, what Humanianity is and is not. And here we will get the clarification that I'm wanting to try to bring about. Humanianity is religion in the descriptively accurate sense that it is human activity, the primary purpose of which is to help individuals formulate, understand, and apply fundamental principles regarding the best way to live their lives. That is, a basic ethical philosophy, which is a set of beliefs about what the right things to do are and why, or stated in a different way, how to be a good person and why. Thus, neither implied nor denied here by, quote, religion, are theism, supernaturalism, or belief maintained by faith or obedience, these being absent in some entities recognized as religions and not necessarily maintained by all individuals currently involved in many recognized religious organizations and activities. And note that some individuals and organizations engage in religious activity as here defined, but do not label their activity as, quote, religious, in some cases because of negative attitudes toward, or concern about negative attitudes toward, quote, religion, as it is usually thought of. Okay, so now the next two paragraphs, it should clarify. Humanianity is currently a movement within religion, within many specific religions to varying extents, and within the human species in general, away from authoritarian ethics to toward rational ethics, and specifically toward rational ethics based upon the above HUEP, or some ultimate ethical principle very much like it. This movement is especially, but not only, an increasing effort to replace some of our natural tendencies to engage in dominance hierarchy-related behaviors, some of which cause tremendous amounts of PSDED, with behaviors consistent with the social contract by everyone for the benefit of everyone. Thus, Humanian ethics is based rationally upon the HUEP, not upon obediently maintained beliefs, for example, theistic, about which there currently can be no widespread increasing agreement, despite such agreement being increasingly desperately needed by our species with regard to our ethics. And now, here, the last paragraph of this sort, there's more, but this should help. Humanianity can be conceptualized by a metaphoric image that consists of a somewhat conically shaped mountain, the vertical dimension representing time. Around the bottom of, and at varying distances from the bottom of, the mountain are worm-like entities seemingly crawling up the mountain, but actually growing at the top end and atrophying at the bottom end. Each of these entities representing a specific religion or similar cultural activity, not necessarily labeled as religion, that is becoming more progressive, meaning self-analytic, self-reformative, and self-expansive at the top end, and that is giving up outdated components at the bottom end. And this movement within these entities occurs as this movement within these entities occurs, and the entities eventually approach the top of the mountain, therefore come closer to each other, they will tend to merge. And when all of them have done so, they will finally become Humanianity, the religion for humanity. Currently, however, Humanianity consists only of the movement or growth process toward the top of the mountain within these entities, religions and other similar entities. So
So it doesn't need to be, but you said earlier, it doesn't necessarily refer to a movement within religion. It does, but that is basically coming from a more basic movement that's happening in humans in general.
right.
See, one of the things that is challenging, I think, is because you're calling Humanianity as you're using it to define, using it as a website and also as a movement which reflects, a third exponential change. It's like it's used in slightly different ways. So
Wait.
when
Can you say that again? Because
sure,
that didn't sound right.
Sure. So it seems that Humanianity, the word Humanianity, is used to define.
No, it's used to label, not to define.
To label. Well, that's what I meant by define. It's used to label a movement.
Uh-huh.
Well, it is defined. It's used to label a movement.
No.
That's happening already in humanity, in humans.
Wait. There's a difference between labeling and defining.
Well, I know, but I'm not. It is defining, and it is also being used to define a religion, to define a website, to define.
No,
that's how it's used to define.
No, that's not. Humanianity is not a label for my this website. The name of the website is Humanianity.com, but that doesn't mean that that the website is Humanianity any more than
Can you scroll up to the beginning of this page, Bill?
Wait, even if you started a website and at the top of it said Christianity, and it was Christianity.com, you wouldn't say that Christianity was the website.
Can you scroll up again?
Yes.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding what you mean by this. It says Humanianity, the religion for humanity. So it's saying that Humanianity, you're using the word Humanianity to define a type of religion.
Well, see, just if you're going to create a website, you need to have a relatively simple title. But the title of the website is not the same as what is being proposed by the website. It's just a label for the website. So the website is Humanianity.com, and there could be Humanianity.org and Humanianity.net.
I'm not talking about the URL. I'm talking about the first sentence of this page. Humanianity, the religion for humanity. You're using the word Humanianity to label a movement and also define a religion.
But wait. You said the sentence. There's no sentence there.
Well, I mean, okay, it's not a sentence. These words. It's Humanianity, the religion for humanity.
Uh-huh.
That's how it's read. It's read from the top down.
Right.
So it might as well say Humanianity, the religion for humanity.
Right.
That is defining this religion as as Humanianity. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but that's just what I'm saying.
Okay, wait. Yes, you could say that the definition of humanity was the religion for humanity. The problem is that is not that is not an explanatory and meaningful definition. it is just a hint of what is to come. And that's not any different than if you put you write a book, and the title of the book will give some idea of what's inside. But to say you don't have to read the book because what is presented in the book is presented on the cover of the book is not correct. So that last paragraph that we read explains what this is meaning. See, Humanianity can be considered to be what we finally arrive at, but that's not exactly so. Humanianity is the movement toward the religion for humanity. In other words, when the time occurs that there will be one religion that has lots of diversity in it, but is consistent with regard to that ultimate ethical principle, then that will be the, forgot how my sentence started, but that would be the correct way of looking at it. So I think we have to be clear when we talk about something being a definition or a description or a label. Those are different things, and I try to do what I can. I don't know how this could be done better. Maybe it could be, and that's why it's good that you're challenging these ideas. But I'm trying to give my reason why so far this is the best that I can come up with. Now, maybe you could come up with something that was better.
No, I just think that it's just, for me, I think it adds to some of the confusion about what Humanianity is when you're using, when the same word is used in the context of a religion and in the context of an exponential change. It just, you have to just, I find that I have to make that shift in my head with regards to, what context this is being, discussed and related in that used in basically that word that was being used.
So you're talking about religion and exponential change. We're talking about a change occurring in our religions. So that change, which happens to be probably exponential, if it's successful, it will probably have been exponential. Well, how did I start that sentence? The point is that it is a change in a particular direction within, quote, capital R religion, or our many religions to a greater or lesser extent. So it is true that it is not a simple concept. One has to become familiar with it. And of course, when one looks at Humanianity, the religion for humanity, the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, here's another religion. Wonder how this one got started and so forth. But that's not what it is. And the religion for humanity, that phrase there is pointing to how we may become in the future. So that's in this parentheses, meaning working together rationally on increasingly, see, there's the change, increasingly becoming the ethically mature human species we can be. We're not there yet. It's saying we're not there yet. So this is not some kind of um, dogma that is unchangeable. It is our working together on increasingly becoming a better species. So it is a complex idea. It's not just, well, another religion, and we need to strip out all religions and so on. So it is not a simple concept. And I don't know a better way of doing it, but maybe there is a better way of stating that here.
I don't know. Like I said, it's complicated, and I don't think it's that materially significant. I don't think it is a sticking point for most people. I still go back to my original question, which I don't feel was kind of completely. I don't know. It was answered. If it was answered, I'm fully convinced. How is Humanianity not simply another set of authoritarian? Let me change it this way. How is Humanianity not simply another manifestation of authoritarianism by virtue of the fact that it mandates a certain belief in its members in order to become part of the group?
Well, that's not it. Being a part of a group is not like like you're an American, right? That's not authoritarian. It's just a description of where you live,
Okay. So now again, so that's how you are, for lack of a better word, that's how you're viewing that, so to speak. So it's not that it is using it as a label, not as a authoritarian rule that's mandated members must follow. Is that what you mean?
Say it again.
That it's being used at, you're using the Hue Up principle as not as a not in an authoritarian fashion to say you must, in order to be part of our group, you have to believe this. You're saying that you're using Hue Up as more of a label to recognize something that's happening already?
Well, it's you do not have to be a Humanian. You may not agree you may have a different idea as to what we humans should strive for. And so if you have a different view, then you could put a label on that view. Then it would be easy to tell us apart. I wouldn't have to ask you many, many questions in order to find out whether you adhered to the HUEP in other words, were committed to trying to do that, or were committed to maybe getting rid of our species, for instance. As an example of another ultimate ethical principle you could arrive at, it might be that we should do that which will promote the greatest diversity of species on this planet. And if that were the ultimate principle, then the easiest way of doing that would be to eliminate just one species, and that is us, because we are destroying the diversity on the planet. Well, a person might do that, in which case they could have a label, and then we would know that that was their position. Having a label that says what your ultimate ethical principle is not an authoritarian sort of thing. It's just the convenience. It's using a convenient tool, namely the label, the symbol that stands for something. But that's not an imposition upon you to do something. It's just a way of clarifying, like you have a name.
Okay. So that's what you mean by right. It's just like you have names. You're defining authoritarianism as like an imposition on somebody that mandates them to behave a certain way, or else there will be punishment.
Well, see, now there you're already introducing something else, the idea that if you do not adhere to something, you will be punished. Now, I happen to believe, and I'm in an extreme minority.
Wait, answer my question. Is that what you mean by something being authoritarian in nature?
No.
Does punishment? No. Okay, so what do you mean by something being authoritarian?
It is that it is one's belief. It is the belief that the way you determine what you should or should not do is by whatever X wants you to do, X being whoever or whatever is most powerful.
Okay, does power have to be part of the definition, that last part?
Well, we define power, and yes, I would say, I don't know of a better way of describing it. By powerful, the alpha chimp is the most powerful one until he's taken down by two others that decide to replace him and so forth.
Well, I give because it's possible to give somebody authoritarian power over you. For example, I choose to go into a job where I have a supervisor that could fire me. He's not stronger than I am. He's not more powerful. I'm giving him that power that I could take away at any time.
Yes, okay. That is a little bit, that's a different use. See, authoritarian ethical and rational ethical are defined on this website, are used in a specific way on this website. Now, it is easy to make mistakes in interpretation by virtue of the fact that our words often have multiple meanings or are similar to other words that have similar or different meanings. And an example is there's a difference between authoritarian and authority or
right.
or authoritative. Authoritative generally means being highly knowledgeable about. Now, when you're talking about an organization, you're talking about a contractual arrangement, an agreement between people. One person says, if you work for me, I will give you such and such. Working for me means that in a particular area of decision making, you do what I decide to tell you to do. That person can be authoritarian or non-authoritarian. An authoritarian would be something like, okay, if you join my organization, you're agreeing that you will not disagree with me. You'll do anything that I say within a particular area, and so on. On the other hand, you could say, okay, if you join my organization, I would like you to be a part of the decision-making process. And although I have the ultimate responsibility of deciding, I want you to participate in that. So I want to get any feedback from you that I can. So that would be on a continuum. Those two things would be on a continuum of authoritarianism.
Well, I can see it right here too, even in the definition. The integral part of the definition is enforcing obedience at the expense of personal freedom. So you can be an authority and not be authoritarian in nature. You become authoritarian when you require obedience at the expense of personal freedom. And I can see the difference now in what you're saying there between someone being an authority versus being an authoritarian in authority is two different things.
Yes, but also.
So in that way.
Wait, just one thing. One does lose some degree of personal freedom if one goes to work for somebody else. That entering into a contract is the giving up of some personal freedom, agreeing to give up some degree of personal freedom to do things in behalf of the benefit of whatever one is.
Yeah, it's not at the expense of some personal freedom. It's at the expense of personal freedom, period. And so I could see how, in a similar fashion, somebody can choose to give quote unquote authority to Humanianity and agree to live by the principles within that religion. And it still would not mean that Humanianity is authoritarian in nature. In the same way, I could choose to work for somebody and be part of that group, and that person I'm working for does not necessarily have to be authoritarian in nature. And I recognize that Humanianity deals with authoritarian ethics, which has to do with enforcing ethics on people at the expense of personal freedom. So I understand what you're saying now.
Okay, so just look at this paragraph here. In order to be a Humanian, there is, by definition, no required set of beliefs other than one, the HUEP, which is an ethical belief about what we should or should not do, and two, the ethical belief that we should try to make all our other ethical beliefs, and therefore our actions, whatever thoughts, feelings, and behavior that we seem to have any voluntary control over, rationally consistent with the HUEP. And so therefore, you can be a Humanian, you can be a Christian Humanian, a Jewish Humanian, an Islamic, Hindu, bright, humanistic, atheistic.
Yeah, I know. This is why I get it. I totally get it. I agree with your underlying reasons here. And I also agree with your underlying reasons for insisting on calling Humanianity a religion. But just this sentence here, where it says, therefore you can be a Christian Humanian, a Jewish Humanian, that in and of itself, so you're a religion. It's almost as difficult just syntactically to make sense. It's like you're a religion of a religion. You're a Christian Humanian. So but I understand why you're doing it. But just this is for the skeptics out there. I think this is something else that they would harp on about why you don't call Humanianity a religion.
It's
just that paragraph.
It is a movement within religion. It is not a religion.
Well, then can we scroll up to the top of the page one more time?
Uh-huh.
I have a suggestion.
Uh-huh.
Can you say Humanianity, a religious movement, a movement within religions in humanity? Can you say a movement within religions?
That might be an improvement. That's a good thought. I wanted to make it as concise as possible, but
well, how about just Humanianity, a movement within human religions, or a movement within religions? I mean, nobody else has religions except humans, so it's implied.
Yeah, but the only problem with that is it is not just a movement within religions. And a lot of people believe that they are not of any religion. And so therefore it would not apply to them.
Then could you say Humanianity, a movement within humanity?
Could, but the problem is it's a movement that's not precise enough. A movement within humanity could be a movement. It could be, for instance, the development of more and more language, or it could be it's not.
Well, but you're defining what it is here. It's a movement, and this is what the movement is.
Not. Oh, you mean if we changed it? The problem is I don't think the label can very easily be. So there's another thing about this. In a way,
how about if we say Humanianity, a movement within religions and humanity?
Well, the only problem is that makes it seem like religions are one thing and humanity is another. It's like it's.
Well, that's true. A religion is one thing and humanity is another.
Yeah, I know, but they're of a different order.
Oh, then what about this? Humanianity, first line, a movement in religion, second line, a movement in humanity. That's nice. I like it. It's got two, a movement in religions, a movement in humanity.
Let's see. Well, a movement have to kind of try to visualize that. A movement within religions.
Then the next line,
a
movement within humanity.
Oh, like, yeah, I see what you're saying, that the thing that bothers me about it is it's a little bit complex. It's not a simplistic label. By the way, here's a little bit of additional data.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I gotta go in like 2 minutes, but keep going. I gotta run to 5.
I can tell you in 30 seconds. I wear a T-shirt when I go doing my walking and running at Freedom Park that says Humanianity, the religion for humanity. And I, every now and then, have somebody say, I like your T-shirt. And so what is happening is there is something else being conveyed here. And that is that this is a proposal that we do something. And it kind of is conveyed. People know that, well, there are all sorts of religions, but a religion for humanity, that means a religion for everybody, as opposed to the exclusiveness that is so characteristic of religions currently. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of stuff that is here. Your idea may be a good one. It does not convince me yet, and we can talk about it further. Anyway, okay. So
I think this was good. I mean, I feel like we're really exploring Humanianity, and I think as a result of that exploration, I'm understanding what you intend to mean. And what your intention is behind it. And it's, I'm definitely happy we're doing this. So is this time good next week?
Yeah.
All right. Take care, Bill.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Humanity, now we all can see. Humanity, how much better we